Central Development Working Party, CWP, on Thursday approved a revised Rs 485 billion proposal for the Diama Basha Dam project that includes the cost of helicopter procurement on security grounds, with the project now being referred to the Executive Committee of the National Economic Council, EC, for final consideration. The decision was taken during a meeting of the Central Development Working Party, CDWP, chaired by Federal Minister for Planning and Deputy Chairman Planning Commission Ahsan Iqbal.
Pakistan Cricket Board, PCB, has announced a 16-member squad on Friday for the upcoming three-match ODI series against Australia, scheduled from May 30 to June 4 in Rawalpindi and Lahore. According to a press release issued by the Cricket Board, Ahmed Danial, Arafat Minhas and Rohail Nazir are the three players selected in the squad who are yet to represent Pakistan in ODI cricket. As a deadly Ebola outbreak tears through Northeast Democratic Republic of the Congo, many first responders are turning a critical eye on events that preceded the crisis. Layoffs of health workers funded by the United States, or shortages of critical medical supplies, and a steep reduction in American support for global aid programs. The World Health Organization says more than 100 deaths are thought to be linked to this outbreak, with nearly 600 suspected cases so far, and it's warning that we know the scale of the epidemic in DRC is much larger. It also said this strain of the virus, for which there is no specific vaccine or treatment, could have been circulating for months before it was detected.
A top United States military official has said Washington is pausing a 14 billion arms sale to Taiwan to conserve munitions for its war on Iran. Acting Navy Secretary Hung Sao provided the update to lawmakers during a Senate hearing on Thursday, a week after the weapons sale took centre stage in talks between US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Beijing.
There is no human activity from which every form of intellectual participation can be excluded. Each man carries on some form of intellectual activity, that is, he is a philosopher, an artist, a man of taste. He participates in a particular conception of the world, has a conscious line of moral conduct, and therefore contributes to sustain a conception of the world or to modify it. That is, to bring into being new modes of thought. Antonio Gramsci critical minds have never found space to thrive in Pakistan. For most of our history, they have been at best isolated and at worst criminalized. Today, we are again confronted with an all-out attack on intellectual life. Junaid Hafiz, a gifted young university teacher, has been in jail, mostly in solitary confinement, for 17 years. No judge is willing to hear his case, filed after he was accused of blasphemy, no matter the actual evidence. No government since 2009 has had the spine to pardon him, despite the falsehoods invoked to frame him.
Islamabad, floods, heat waves and changing weather patterns have adversely affected wheat production in Pakistan, and the target initially fixed could not be achieved this year. This was stated by Minister for National Food Security and Research Rana Tanveer Hussain while briefing the Senate Standing Committee on National Food Security and Research on Thursday. The meeting of the committee was presided over by Senator Masroor Ahsan.
Karachi. The Sindh Cabinet on Thursday approved off-budget emergency funding to Trans-Karachi, enabling the Frontier Works organisation to accelerate construction on the long-delayed bus rapid transit BRT Red Line project, a 12.85-kilometre stretch for Lot 2, 12 from Numaish Chowrangi to Masamiat, after the previous joint venture contractor was terminated for persistent delays and non-compliance.
Hundreds of Greenlanders gathered outside a new American consulate in the capital, Nuuk, on Friday to protest against Donald Trump's ambition for greater influence over the island. The protest capped a week in which the US president's special envoy to Greenland, Jeff Landry, made his first trip to the territory, a semi-autonomous part of Denmark.
Elon Musk's SpaceX has postponed a launch of its massive Starship rocket and said it plans to make another attempt at the highly anticipated test flight on Friday. It comes just a day after the firm revealed plans for a record-breaking stock market debut, where the successful launch of the powerful new rocket could help entice investors into buying shares.
President Donald Trump has said the US will be sending an additional 5,000 troops to Poland a week after the Pentagon cancelled a planned deployment of 4,000 troops to the country. Writing on Truth Social, Trump said the decision was based on the US's relationship with Polish President Karol Nawrocki, whom he backed during presidential elections last year.
The US has charged Cuba's 94-year-old former president, Raul Castro, with murder, stoking speculation that Havana could be next on Washington's regime change list, amid a maximum pressure campaign that has led to the most significant fuel and energy shortages in Cuba in decades. A steady chorus of US officials is calling for the end of the island's 66-year-old communist government.
Islamabad. The Water and Power Development Authority, WAPDA, on Thursday came under severe criticism at a meeting of the Central Development Working Party, CWP, over poor project management, lack of transparency, weak oversight mechanisms, massive cost overruns, and delays in two mega-critical water projects worth over $802 billion, Daima Basha Dam and Tarbela Fifth Extension. The technical team of the Planning Commission and Minister for Planning and Development, Arsan Iqbal, expressed serious concern over the non-submission of project feasibilities and revised cost estimates for more than 6 years, as well as attempts to hush up inquiries into alleged mismanagement and corruption. They demanded that both inquiry reports be shared without further delay.
The government has decided to issue a commemorative coin to mark the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations with China. In a press release issued on Thursday, the State Bank of Pakistan, SBP, said the 75 coin will be available to the general public from May 25, Monday, through the exchange counters at the field offices of SBP Banking Services Corporation.
The negotiations aimed at ending the US-Israel war on Iran underscore how far apart Washington and Tehran still seem to remain. In particular, confusion surrounding Iran's position on its enriched uranium stockpile has illustrated how fraught the diplomacy has been. Reuters reported on Thursday that Iran's supreme leader had instructed that the country's highly enriched uranium stockpile remain inside Iran, directly challenging one of Washington's core demands. The US, backed by Israel, wants the material transferred abroad. But senior Iranian officials later denied that any new order had been issued, insisting Tehran's position had remained consistent, that the material could be diluted domestically under supervision.
A court in Turkey has annulled the 2023 leadership election of the main opposition Republican People's Party, CHP, in a sharp escalation against the country's embattled opposition. It is the latest in a string of moves targeting a faction that won a huge victory over President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's ruling AK party in the 2024 local elections and has been rising in the polls. Senate Republicans in the United States have punted on a vote to fund immigration enforcement operations before a long holiday weekend, in a rare show of political backlash against President Donald Trump. On Thursday, the Republican-led chamber had planned to vote on a $72 billion funding bill to help fuel Trump's mass deportation campaign.
Waymo has now paused service in 4 cities because its robotaxis are struggling to deal with heavy rain and flooded roads, a problem that already prompted the company to issue a recall last week. One of Waymo's robotaxis was spotted driving through a flooded street in Atlanta, Georgia, on Wednesday before it ultimately got stuck for about an hour, according to local news reports. The vehicle was recovered and removed from the scene, Waymo told TechCrunch. Waymo says it paused service in the city, just like it has in San Antonio, Texas, while it figures out a solution.
2 incidents of gun violence have shaken Honduras, killing at least 16 people in the Central American country. On Thursday, gunfire was first reported on a remote palm farm in Rigores, part of the municipality of Trujillo in the country's north. More than 2,000 people have gathered in a park in San Diego, California, to mourn a security guard and 2 other men murdered as they tried to stop this week's attack on the city's largest mosque. Got mourners, including police officers in uniform, stood in rows for the Islamic funeral prayer, or janazah, on Thursday.
The United States has denied that the cancellation of sanctions against Francesca Albanese, the United Nations Special Rapporteur for the Palestinian Territory, constitutes a change in the government's policy. On Thursday, the Department of State clarified only removed Albanese from a sanctions list due to a recent court ruling.
SpaceX has scrubbed the first launch of its third-generation Starship rocket system from its headquarters in Starbase, Texas. The company is expected to make another attempt on Friday. It's a crucial launch for the company, and not just because it's the first real test of the upgraded Starship V3 hardware. It also comes at a pivotal moment for SpaceX financially. The company recently filed for an IPO and is expected to go public within weeks, putting added pressure on SpaceX to demonstrate that its next-generation rocket program is making meaningful progress.
An angry crowd set alight a section of a hospital at the epicenter of the Ebola outbreak in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo after family and friends of a young man thought to have died from the virus were prevented from taking his body away for burial. They started throwing projectiles at the hospital. They even set fire to tents that were being used as isolation wards. Local politician Luc Malem told the BBC about the scene he witnessed at Rampara General Hospital.
Cuba poses a national security threat to the US and the likelihood of a peaceful agreement is not high, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said. His comments come just a day after the US charged Cuba's former president Raul Castro with murder over the 1996 downing of 2 planes, resulting in the killing of US nationals.
Cristiano Ronaldo scored twice as Al Nassr clinched the Saudi Pro League title with a 4-1 win over Damak, ending his long wait for domestic silverware. A trademark free kick and a close-range finish, both in the final half hour of Thursday's game, sealed the win Al Nassr needed on the last night of the season, with Al Hilal finishing just 2 points behind.
The High Representative overseeing the United States-founded Board of Peace for Gaza, Nikolay Mladenov, has warned that the deteriorating status quo in the devastated Palestinian enclave risks becoming permanent. Speaking on Thursday to the United Nations Security Council, UNSC, Mladenov presented a roadmap detailing obligations for Israel and Hamas to implement a permanent ceasefire. He urged the UNSC to use every means at its disposal to press Hamas to disarm, while also saying that Israel must uphold its commitment under a ceasefire agreed in October.
Waymo has suspended robotaxi service on freeways in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix and Miami as it works to improve performance in construction zones. The company confirmed to TechCrunch on Thursday. Waymo said it's in the process of integrating recent technical learnings into our software and expect to resume these routes soon. Waymo robotaxis are still operating on surface streets in those cities. While there are some shocking revelations in SpaceX S1 as it gets ready to become a public company, Elon Musk's total control of the company perhaps isn't one of them. I could argue that the oddball provision where Elon Musk gets up to 1 billion more shares to add to his already oversized company controlling cash once 1 million people are living on Mars, yes, really, is perhaps the most also fairly dropping. Musk controls and can vote those shares. Musk controls and can vote those shares now, by the way. World Cup fans are wielding artificial intelligence to mass-produce viral songs supporting their teams ahead of next month's tournament. As the fan-made football anthems are raking in millions of plays across YouTube, TikTok and Instagram, experts say that the viral tunes raise questions about song ownership, artist compensation and the valuation of human creativity.
The United States imposed sanctions on 9 people it accuses of enabling Hezbollah to undermine Lebanon's sovereignty, the latest US effort to destroy the group's financial networks around the world. In a statement on Thursday, the US Department of the Treasury said the individuals were designated for obstructing the peace process in Lebanon and impeding the disarmament of Hezbollah. The US Department of State said those sanctioned include members of Lebanon's parliament, an Iranian diplomat and security officials in Lebanon's governmental institutions who abused their roles.
Flotillas carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza began in 2008, 2 years after Israel imposed a blockade on the Strip. 2 boats succeeded, despite Israeli attempts to stop them. Since then, Israeli forces have forced several flotillas to turn back and detained hundreds of activists, sometimes violently and in international waters.